We're continuing to explore inspection management for public sector as a way to learn about dynamic assessments. And the last section was building questions. And now we're going to create and configure Omni tasks. And again, this should be relatively straightforward, but I've done it quite a few times, so let's see if it's going to work this time. We're creating an Omni Assessment Task, adding assessment questions to the Omni Assessment Task after launching Omniscript. And then we're going to build Omniscript and work with conditional logic. So the first step is just to create a new Omni Assessment Task, name it, and mark it as defined. There is one note here that we also have to set the status to is defined in order to use it multiple times. Not clear to me what that actually means, but let's give it a try. So here are my Omni tasks, and we're actually building out test 6. And our status is defined, and we click Save. And looking back at the relationship diagram, we've built out questions in the prior step. We also connected them to regulatory codes. What we're doing now is building an Omni Assessment Task, which we're going to run through the discovery framework to build an Omniscript to build in questions. So we have an Omni Assessment Task. We're going to create an Omniscript. From the prior step, we named it Building Standards Assessment. And now we're calling it a Fire and Safety Building Standards Check. We're going to use the English language. And for type, the default is contract. We're going to use Salon Assessment and Safety. The subtype is these actions, amend, terminate, renew. And we're using a category called Safety. So I'm not sure where the subtype shows up, but let's give it a try. Not marking it for reuse. And under the Fire Safety and Building Standards check, we have to define tasks. So we're saying name the first one Fire Safety. And add the second one as Building Standards. So we're adding a step, calling it Building Standards. The note here says that Omni Studio saves your work automatically. So then we're adding questions, assessment questions, and it suggests either using a keyword or using categories. So let's type the word fire and hit a carriage return. And here we can either select all, in which case we're going to add it to fire safety. And then we're going to say there were 3 of them. So we're going to add a category here called fire safety. And we just get those 2 because it's still filtering by fire. So we're going to eliminate this filter. And now we get the 3rd one. And we can now drag that one also into fire safety. And the next step is to add to building standards. So we eliminate this category. We add it again as building standards. We select all and add those questions to building standards. All this information seems intact. Looking back out, we can then build the Omniscript. So click Build Omniscript. Still have these words. One version they disappeared on me, so it's good to see those. As long as you see all these 4 words, you're okay. I'm going to click Build Omniscript. And it tells me I have my internal error. Now this is the problem I've had in the past. So I'm going to close this. I'm actually going to add in here a T6. And let me try building it now. It says that's not enough, so I can't just change this. So I've gotten this to work. So what I'm going to do is to eliminate these sections. I'm going to delete steps. So I'm going to delete these fire safety steps, build the building standards. So this is still there. I can eliminate these. So I'm going to click these, delete these. And I'm going to eliminate this, take it down to there. Okay, so I basically have this information again. And I'm going to take this and just call it fire safety. This time I'm going to add fire from here. I got 3. Rather than doing the selection, I got it to work with a drag. So let's just do the drags and see what happens. So I've added those 3 to the fire safety, calling it T6. Now it's marked as T6. I'm going to build an Omniscript and let's see what happens. So there's something about adding that second step that was a problem, but we can work with it from here. So let's keep moving forward. And these instructions make sense once you've done it, but it's hard to appreciate. So we've built this. It says click step 1. Now there are 2 step 1s, but I found that if you click one, you actually click them both. And the instructions say under step properties, update the name field to fire safety. So this is the step properties, and it says update the name field to fire safety. But when you look at it, it says the element names cannot contain spaces and must be unique and on Omniscript. So I renamed this step 1 fire safety. And then we're to go to the question block to add logic. How many violations were found in the previous inspection? So let's just follow the steps and then we'll kind of talk about them as they work. So we're scrolling down to this question, left clicking it. Actually, I'm going to click here just so we save that. Left clicking the questions. Looks like we got a question box and a title. Let's take the whole box. And if we just click this, that gives us masking and default value information. Clicking the whole box gave us the conditional view. Clicking down opened it. And what they're suggesting is in the Edit, Show, Hide Rules dialog, specify these. So we're leaving all conditions are met. The field, just cutting and pasting this in here. We can see that and select it. And that's is it equal to no. And then we're to save this rule and delete any fields you don't need. So the instructions say to select the compliance status field in the initial fire inspection block and delete it. Taking a look at our block, this is the initial fire inspection block, we're not seeing a compliance section. And I don't see it over here as well. Got build options and setup options. Well, let's leave it in properties for now. This next section relates to the building standards portion of the checklist, which we didn't include because of the errors. But it's really building on the same steps that we did above. We're going into conditional view, and we're doing a show element if true. Conditional view, show element if true, and in this case, all conditions met, and a field greater than 499. And they are eliminating the compliance status block, which we didn't end up finding. At this point, what we can do is to preview the page. And scrolling to the top, we can click Preview. Looking at the preview, we're seeing a survey with yes/no answers here. And we can save it for later, or we can go to Next. And it tells us there's an error. So clearly that didn't work. So I'm going to click Continue. And it says you're all set. Your response has been saved. Very curious. So clearly there's some things that would need to be worked through. I'm going to activate the version just to see what that does. So it actually completed, but there's so much more I need to learn about Omniscripts. We have the option to deactivate, but we'll call that a starting point. And I hope you've had better luck than I have.